So who here is on Facebook? Right? Not right now, but in general. So I'm sure many of you have received invitations from your friends to join Farmville, or as their description says, grow and harvest beautiful crops on your very own lifelike farm, right? So on a Farmville farm, you're under constant threat of accidentally spamming your friends, right? But as we all know, on a real farm in a developing country, the threats are droughts, pests, and not being able to feed your family, right? So these threats make it difficult for farmers to learn what works, or sort of how to move from the left-hand side of this graph to the right-hand side, right? Another thing that makes it hard for farmers to learn is that there's also often a lot of variability between fields. Okay, so these blobs are the distributions of pH within villages in western and central Kenya. So each blob is a village, and so you can see that there's quite a lot of variability. The problem with that is that if your neighbor's fields are quite different from yours, it makes it harder for you to use her experience as a proxy for your own, right? One way to solve that is to give farmers personalized, targeted soil recommendations based on their soil deficiencies, right? So let's do a little experiment. Let's pretend that you're a farmer. You've been told that you should try putting lime on your field, and you want to know how that affects your maize yields, okay? And you do, you go out buy the lime, you apply it, and then there's a drought. Or there's a flood. And you get no harvest at all, or something else happens that really diminishes your harvest. You're out the money, and you still don't know how lime affects your yields, right? So the basic thought behind our project is that there are lots and lots of things that affect farmers' yields. And for any given combination of weather variables, of soil quality variables, or of inputs, farmers have very few observations, right? So our thinking was, what if we could give farmers more observations, sort of experimentally? And so we're going to take a crop model that simulates maize yields. We're going to take soil samples on farmers' fields and initialize the model with those soil parameters. Then we're going to let farmers experiment with different inputs on a virtual field that's sort of corresponds to their own field, right? So in a crop model, that's picking some parameters, right? And then the model simulates some yields or the returns to those inputs. But we want to try to do that in a way that is a little more accessible to farmers. And this is just a mock-up that I did in PowerPoint, but something along these lines, an Android game that simulates yields for farmers and gives them a sense of how different inputs affect their returns, okay? So while we don't think that we'll be able to make farming child's play, we think that we might be able to use a game to at least boost farmers' ability to feed their children. Thanks.